I never imagined that a few words, whispered softly in the quiet of a hospital room, could unravel the life I thought I knew. My wife's last words were not a confession, a request, or even a warning. They were something far simpler, yet far heavier, and in their simplicity lay a truth I had been blind to for decades. I wish I could say I was prepared for them, that I saw the meaning behind her trembling lips, the weight behind her fading eyes. But I wasn't. I didn't see, and in not seeing, I wasted 41 years. 41 years living in routines, assumptions, and illusions, blind to what mattered most. I met her when we were young, fresh-faced and brimming with energy and optimism. Love seemed effortless then, or at least it felt that way. Every shared laugh, every stolen glance, every gentle touch felt like an eternity of perfect moments. We promised each other the world, and for a while I believed we would conquer it together. But life, as it often does, crept in with its responsibilities, distractions, and compromises. Work became a necessity. Children became the center of our lives, and somewhere between board meetings, grocery lists, and bedtime stories, the closeness we once felt began to fade. I convinced myself it was normal. Everyone felt this way, didn't they? Yet somewhere deep inside, I always carried a faint unease, a whisper that our connection was slipping through my fingers. She never complained. Not really. She smiled when she was tired, laughed when she felt burdened, and comforted me when I was oblivious to her silent struggles. I remember thinking she was invincible, that she would always be there, carrying us through life with grace and quiet strength. In that belief, I began to take her presence for granted. I assumed she understood my love without my having to say it. I assumed she felt valued without showing it. And I assumed that time, which I could not see slipping, was endless. But time, unlike me, never waits. I wish I could go back to that. First warning, the moment when life gave me a tiny hint that I was drifting. It was subtle. She would pause mid-sentence, lost in thought, her eyes distant. She would ask questions that seemed trivial at first, about what I remembered from our early days, what I thought about certain moments, and I brushed it off, too busy, too self-absorbed, too certain that I understood her. I couldn't see the cracks forming beneath the surface. And every day that passed, I unknowingly widened the gap between us. Then, on a winter morning, it all came to a head. She was ill, though I convinced myself it was minor, a temporary setback that would pass. The doctors were kind but cautious, and I nodded along, smiling and making plans for the days ahead, thinking of future vacations, dinners, and family milestones. But she knew. She always knew more than I did. And that day, as I sat by her hospital bed, holding her hand and trying to appear brave, she spoke words that would haunt me for the rest of my life. "I forgive you," she whispered. I froze. My heart raced. My mind scrambled. "Forgive me." What? I had done nothing wrong, or at least nothing I could see. She smiled faintly, a fragile curve of her lips that somehow carried a world of meaning. And then she said the words that shattered me, not with anger, but with quiet, undeniable truth. "I wish you had loved yourself, and me, fully all these years." I felt a coldness rush through me, a sharp, unwelcome clarity. It wasn't a matter of betrayal, nor of neglect in the way most people understand it. It was deeper. It was the regret of decades wasted, the regret of moments unlived, of emotions unexpressed, of understanding that never came until it was too late. She didn't blame me, yet she revealed a truth I had ignored, one that now I could not deny. In my pursuit of security, of routine, of being a good provider, I had missed the essence of being a good partner. I had measured life in accomplishments and tasks, not in love and presence. Those final hours were filled with silence, with tears I could not hold back. I tried to tell her everything I had ever felt, all the words I should have said, but she was already slipping away, the grip of life loosening with each breath. And in that silence, I realized the most painful truth. Words, no matter how heartfelt, cannot undo decades of absence. They cannot bring back the intimacy, the shared laughter. The moments of quiet understanding that I had taken for granted, they can only arrive too late, lingering in the spaces where I should have been. As I watched her fade, I promised myself I would never forget. Promised that if there was anything left in me, I would honor her words by changing, not to make up for the past, which was irretrievable, but to ensure the future, if given time, was lived fully, intentionally, and with genuine care. I vowed to love without hesitation, to speak without fear, to express without assumption, to recognize that life is fleeting, that time is precious, and that the simplest acts, listening, touching, holding, saying I love you, carry weight far beyond what we imagine in the days that followed. Friends and family offered condolences, shared memories, and tried to comfort me. But their words, though well-meaning, could not fill the void. They did not know the subtle regrets, the quiet remorse, the daily reminders of opportunities missed. Every photograph, every object, every scent in our home was a testament to a life shared and a love that had been imperfectly expressed. And in those reminders, I learned that grief is not only sorrow for loss, it is recognition of what we failed to do, acknowledgement of the life we could have lived differently, and the painful, humbling realization that some lessons arrive only when it is too late to apply them to ourselves. I have since begun to write down my reflections, my regrets, and my hopes. I want others to understand the gravity of neglecting the present of. Assuming love and care are understood without expression, I want them to see that the accumulation of small, daily attentions, of thoughtful words, of genuine listening, is what sustains relationships, not grand gestures or material offerings. I want them to understand, as I now painfully do, that life is measured not in years or achievements, but in presence, in awareness, and in the courage to express love consistently, honestly, and without reservation. And so, in honoring her last words, I speak them now, to anyone willing to hear. Love fully, listen deeply, forgive often, and cherish every fleeting moment. Don't wait until the end to realize the depth of your connection with those you love. Don't postpone affection, understanding, or gratitude. Life is relentless in its passage, and regret, once it takes hold, is heavier than anything else we might carry. I learned this at the cost of 41 years, and I shared in the hope that others might learn it sooner, and live a life rich not only in years, but in meaning, in presence, and in love. After she passed, the house felt impossibly empty. The walls, once filled with laughter, arguments, and whispered secrets, now echoed with silence. I wandered from room to room, touching objects, remembering moments, and feeling the weight of every missed opportunity. I realized that for decades I had lived distracted, convinced that love was automatic, something that required little effort beyond routine and presence. But love, I now understood, is deliberate. It demands attention, presence, and vulnerability. Every day I had chosen convenience over connection, and the cost was my marriage, my partnership, my life with her. The mornings I spent at work while she sat alone, reading or staring out the window, replayed in my mind like a relentless film. I had thought she was content, had assumed she was happy with the life we'd built together. But happiness, I came to learn, is not a silent, passive state. It is nurtured, cultivated, and communicated. Every moment I neglected her voice, ignored her subtle signs of needing closeness, or allowed my mind to wander elsewhere, I chipped away at the foundation of our relationship. In time, silent and patient, simply carried her toward her end. Leaving me to grasp for understanding only after she had gone, I began to examine myself, to question the choices I had made. Was I ever truly present? Had I ever really listened when she spoke? Or did I only hear what I wanted to hear? Did I show gratitude for the small things, the countless acts of care she provided daily? Or did I assume they were her duty, her natural role as my partner? These questions haunted me, each one a tiny, painful mirror reflecting my failures. I had spent decades chasing achievements, worrying about money, career, and appearances, while the most essential work building maintaining. And cherishing our love was left undone. I remember the evenings we spent together after our children went to bed. I would sit in my armchair, scrolling through emails, checking the news, or reading something work-related, while she quietly folded laundry or tidied the living room. Sometimes she would ask me about my day, wanting to share hers, to connect. To laugh, I would give brief answers, distractedly nod or half smile, assuming she understood my preoccupation. Looking back, I see now how painfully one-sided those interactions were. She was always reaching out, and I was always looking elsewhere. The small gestures of connection, the moments where love could have been openly expressed, were lost to distraction and assumption. After her passing, I spoke with friends, neighbors, and even distant relatives, trying to understand if others had seen the subtle sadness that had been hiding behind her smiles. They all expressed surprise. She had always seemed cheerful, lively, and resilient. But resilience can mask pain, and smiles can conceal longing. I realized that the person we think we know most intimately can hold entire oceans of unspoken feelings, especially when we fail to engage, listen, and empathize. It is a cruel irony that those closest to us can suffer quietly while we remain blind, believing everything is as it appears. The house became a place of reflection, spent hours poring over old photographs, letters, and mementos. Each picture revealed moments I had forgotten, vacations where we laughed until our sides hurt, late-night talks that stretched into the early morning, shared victories and small defeats. And each memory carried a bittersweet weight, joy intertwined. With regret, I realized that life is not about the grand, monumental events we often chase, but about the countless small moments that accumulate over time. In my pursuit of the extraordinary, I had overlooked the ordinary. Those everyday opportunities to nurture love, show appreciation, and be present. I began to journal, documenting every realization, every regret, and every lesson she had left behind. Writing became both a therapy and a ritual, a way to confront the truth I had long avoided. I wrote about my failures to express love consistently, about the unspoken words, the delayed apologies, and the missed opportunities to be vulnerable. I explored the patterns of neglect that had taken root in our marriage, the assumption that presence alone equaled care, the belief that actions alone without emotional engagement were sufficient. I cataloged the moments where I had chosen convenience over connection, pride over understanding, and routine over intimacy. One of the hardest truths I confronted was my tendency to avoid discomfort. Love requires risk, the risk of being misunderstood, the risk of rejection, the risk of facing conflict with honesty and compassion. I had spent decades avoiding these risks, opting instead for a comfortable version of life that seemed safe but was, in truth, emotionally bankrupt. In doing so, I had inadvertently built walls between us, walls she quietly navigated with patience and grace. She loved deeply, fully, without reservation, while I, blinded by fear, remained partial and distant. That imbalance, I now understood, was at the heart of my lifelong regret. I began to see that her last words were not only about me, they were about the life we could have shared together. I wish you had loved yourself and me fully. She wanted me to understand that self-love is inseparable from loving another. It's only when we value and respect ourselves can we truly engage in meaningful, enduring love with someone else. My neglect of self-care, my constant self-criticism, and my preoccupation with external validation had hindered my ability to be present for her emotionally. In essence, by not nurturing my own heart, I had limited my capacity to nurture ours. In the quiet of our home, I began to practice presence. I forced myself to slow down, to observe the details I had previously ignored. The way sunlight fell across the living room, the subtle scent of her favorite candle, the soft creak of the floorboards she once walked on. I began to speak aloud the thoughts and feelings I had suppressed for years. I recognized that love requires articulation. It is not enough to feel. It must be expressed in words and actions consistently, without expectation of perfection. In honoring her, I sought to embrace this truth fully, vowing to live differently, even as I mourned what could never be reclaimed. The mornings after she was gone were the hardest. Waking up without the sound of her voice, the gentle brush of her hand, or the comforting weight of her presence beside me made reality feel both surreal and cruel. I moved through the house, mechanically performing routines she had once shared with me, making coffee, opening the blinds, tending to small chores. Each act now hollow and painfully silent. Every corner, every object seemed to whisper reminders of my failures. Yet, amidst the grief, I began to notice something I hadn't fully recognized in life: the power of memory, reflection, and choice. Grief, as agonizing as it was, became the lens through which I could finally see my life with clarity. I started to revisit moments from our early years together, as the days when everything felt fresh, exciting, and filled with possibility. We had met young, brimming with ambition and naive confidence. I remembered the long walks we took in the park, the way she laughed at my bad jokes, and the dreams we whispered to each other under starlit skies. There was a raw, unguarded intimacy in those days that life had slowly eroded. We grew older. Responsibilities mounted, and the world's pressures became a persistent hum that drowned out our closeness. I realized that love is not static. It requires ongoing attention, nurturing, and renewal. Ignoring this truth, even subtly, allows distance to creep in, often unnoticed until it becomes too late. I recalled arguments that seemed trivial at the time, but now loomed as significant markers of disconnection. The harsh words, the silent treatments, the passive-aggressive comments, they were all evidence of my inability to communicate vulnerably. I had believed that by avoiding conflict, I was protecting our relationship. In reality, I was building walls that neither of us could cross. She had always sought resolution, understanding, and honesty, while I preferred avoidance, rationalization, and self-justification. In retrospect, these choices were not minor. They were the very fractures that ultimately widened into unbridgeable gaps. I began to see patterns in my behavior. My focus on work, status, and appearances was often a form of distraction, away to avoid examining uncomfortable truths about myself, my fears, and my insecurities. I avoided difficult conversations, emotional vulnerability, and honest self-reflection, believing that keeping busy would somehow protect me and sustain our relationship. But avoidance is a thief. It steals connection, intimacy, and trust. Each day I ignored the deeper needs of our bond. I unknowingly widened the distance between us. And now, in her absence, the weight of those choices pressed down on me with undeniable force. One day, while sorting through old letters and journals, I stumbled upon her personal notes, small, handwritten reflections on our life together. She had written about her hopes, fears, and frustrations with remarkable honesty. I read her words with both reverence and pain, recognizing that she had been reaching out to me emotionally all along, even when I failed to respond. Her patience and commitment to connection were profound, yet I had treated them as ordinary, as expected, as routine. I realized how little I had truly appreciated her emotional labor, the quiet work of sustaining a relationship that often goes unnoticed, yet is essential for its survival. I began to practice radical honesty with myself. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel the full spectrum of regret, not to wallow, but to learn, to understand, and to transform. I acknowledged that I had failed in ways both small and monumental, ignoring her needs, dismissing her feelings, taking her for granted, and prioritizing superficial goals over the deep, enduring work of love. Each admission was painful, yet each also offered clarity. I began to see that regret is not merely a negative force, it can be a catalyst for growth, awareness, and change if we allow ourselves to face it fully. I sought out the wisdom of others' friends who had faced similar losses, therapists who guided people through grief, and even books on relationships and emotional intelligence. Their insights reinforced what I already knew, but had refused to confront. Life is fleeting, and the people we love are not guaranteed to be with us indefinitely. The moments we take for granted today cannot be reclaimed tomorrow. Understanding this, I realized, is the key to living with intention, presence, and authenticity. The lesson my wife had imparted, whether she knew it or not, was that love is fragile and must be actively preserved. Slowly, I began to integrate this awareness into my daily life. I reached out to friends and family, making efforts to connect more deeply and meaningfully than I ever had before. I listened with full attention, spoke with honesty, and acted with intention. I started keeping a gratitude journal, recording not only the things I was thankful for, but also the people whose presence shaped my life. I discovered that small, deliberate acts of recognition, kindness, and acknowledgement can transform relationships even after years of neglect. The pain of loss became a motivator to ensure that future connections are nurtured with care, rather than taken for granted. I also confronted the notion of self-compassion. For years, I had been my own harshest critic, measuring success by external standards while ignoring my internal emotional life. I learned that self-love is not indulgence, but necessity. It is the foundation upon which healthy relationships are built. By cultivating compassion, patience, and understanding toward myself, I became better equipped to extend the same toward others. My wife's final words echoed in my mind. She had wanted me to embrace life fully, to honor my own heart as well as hers. Only now, in her absence, did I begin to grasp the depth of that wisdom. Even as I healed, the shadow of regret remained. Some moments could never be reclaimed. Some words could never be spoken. And some gestures of love could never be made. I carried these truths with me as both burden and guide. They reminded me daily that life's opportunities are finite, that time is precious, and that the people we love must be cherished actively. It's not assumed to endure indefinitely, I vowed, in honor of her memory. To live differently, to be present, attentive, and engaged in every relationship I hold. The days that followed became exercises in presence. I began noticing details I had overlooked for decades, the way sunlight hit the living room in the afternoon, the subtle changes in my children's expressions, the texture of the air in quiet moments of reflection. Life, I realized, was not meant to be rushed through blindly. It was a collection of fleeting instances, each demanding attention, care, and gratitude. My wife's absence forced me to confront this truth with brutal clarity. Every day became an opportunity to practice awareness, empathy, and intentional action. To honor the life I still had and the relationships that remained, I reached out to old friends I had neglected. Some estranged for years, apologizing for my silence and absence. The responses were varied. Some were cautious, some grateful, and some reluctant, but each interaction reminded me that reconnection is always possible if approached with honesty and humility. I learned that pride and stubbornness often cost us more than we realize. By acknowledging my past mistakes openly, I could foster healing not only in myself, but in the people around me. Forgiveness, I discovered, is not just for others. It is a gift we give ourselves, a release from the heavy weight of regret that otherwise clings endlessly. One afternoon, while sifting through her belongings, I found a small notebook filled with reflections, poems, and fleeting thoughts she had written over the years. Her handwriting, at once precise and whimsical, conveyed a depth of feeling that had always been present, even when unspoken. I read her words aloud to myself, tears streaming, as if speaking them could summon her presence back into the room. In that moment, I understood that love leaves traces, impressions that persist beyond life itself. These traces are powerful, guiding those left behind toward reflection, growth, and transformation. Her final words were not merely a message, they were a compass. Pointing toward a more conscious, compassionate way of living, I started making deliberate choices to slow down, to listen more, and to invest fully in the present. Simple, asking about a friend's day with genuine interest, writing letters to family members, embracing my children longer before they left for school, became profound practices of care. I realized that life's meaning is not found in grand gestures or monumental achievements, but in consistent, attentive love. The years I had wasted, driven by ambition, distraction, and avoidance, had taught me painfully what truly matters. Now, with clarity born of loss, I embraced the daily practice of presence. The process was not linear. Some mornings grief hit me like a wave, pulling me into a deep ache of longing and self-recrimination. On those days, I reminded myself that mourning is part of living. It is a testament to the depth of connection we experience with others. I allowed myself to feel fully, understanding that emotional honesty is not weakness, but strength. Confronting the pain rather than numbing it, I cultivated resilience and empathy. I became more patient, more forgiving, and more attuned to the subtle rhythms of human connection. I also reflected on the life lessons she had imparted, both consciously and unconsciously. She had taught me that authenticity is invaluable, that emotional labor is real work, and that love requires courage, the courage to be vulnerable, to communicate, and to prioritize people over distractions. I realized that I had taken these lessons for granted, assuming time would allow me to catch up later. Life, however, is finite, and waiting for a perfect moment often means waiting too long. I committed myself to living these lessons fully, honoring her wisdom by integrating it into my daily actions. As months passed, I began to find a sense of peace, not erasing the sorrow, but transforming it into purpose. I took up writing, documenting not only my grief, but the lessons learned from her presence and absence. I shared stories with friends and community members, helping others recognize the importance of conscious connection before it is too late. Each word, each narrative became a tribute, a way to extend the impact of her life and her guidance beyond the boundaries of our shared time. I realized that even in absence, her influence could catalyze change, reflection, and growth in ways I had never imagined. I also confronted the realities of aging, mortality, and impermanence. Losing her accelerated my awareness that life's fragility is not something to fear, but something to honor. Every conversation, every act of kindness, every moment of attention became sacred. I became deliberate about how I spent my time, choosing experiences that nurtured connection rather than distraction, presence rather than busyness. The lessons of regret painfully acquired were now guiding my daily decisions, reminding me that life is most meaningful when invested in relationships, integrity, and personal growth. Over time, I found myself transforming not just in thought, but in habit. I laughed more freely, spoke more openly, and embraced vulnerability as strength rather than weakness. I stopped postponing apologies, affirmations, and expressions of love. I celebrated small moments with gratitude, recognizing that these moments collectively form the tapestry of a life well lived. The sorrow of my loss became a teacher, shaping me into someone who could honor others fully, without hesitation, and live with intention. Finally, I understood that regret is not an endpoint, is a signal. It is the mind and heart's way of showing us where we have strayed from authenticity, presence, and love. My wife's last words, initially a source of shock and guilt, became the catalyst for profound self-awareness. I realized that the past cannot be changed, but the future is malleable. With conscious effort, deliberate care, and an embrace of vulnerability, I could transform my remaining years into a life that reflected the lessons she had imparted. A life that was attentive, present, and deeply human. And so I carry forward, not merely surviving, but living intentionally. I honor her memory by embodying the wisdom she offered, by cherishing the people around me, and by embracing the fleeting beauty of life. Her words, once a source of regret, became a blueprint for transformation, a reminder that even in the face of irreversible loss, we can choose to grow, connect, and love more deeply than ever before. Life is fragile, fleeting, and precious, and I will never forget that lesson again.